patient. The world keeps turning, the times move fast. What worked before may not always last. Fathers, sons, brothers stand tall. Learning from each other, we rise through it all. Young and old, side by side, bridging the gap with truth and pride. The times may change, but the heart remains. Let's connect, break the chains, bridging generations, voices of men from the past to the future. We rise again, different views, but the bond stays strong. We listen, we learn, we all belong. We're living in a world that's shifting fast. New challenges come, but our strength will last. Wisdom meets vision, we light the way. Standing together, we won't fade away. Young and old, side by side, bridging the gap with truth and pride. The times may change, but the heart remains. Let's connect, bridging generations, voices of men from the past to the future. We rise again, different views, but the bond stays strong. We listen, we learn, we all belong. We're living in a world that's shifting fast. New challenges come, but our strength will last. Wisdom meets vision, we light the way. Standing together, we won't fade away. And Jones and Wall, a brand new stage. We must rise to meet the age. With open minds and hearts that lead. Together we grow, together we succeed. Bridging generations, voices of men in a changing world. In a changing world.
Greetings, friends of the Ecologion with Purpose movement. Welcome to Bridging Generations, Voices of Men in a Changing World. I am Dr. Laxley Stephenson. This groundbreaking podcast delves into the multifaceted experience of men across different generations. In an era where societal norms and expectations rapidly evolve, this show offers young and older men a unique platform to voice their challenges, triumphs, and perspectives.
Each episode aims to foster understanding and bridge the gap between generations, exploring themes ranging from masculinity and mental health to career dynamics and personal relationships. By bringing together voices from varied age groups, the show sheds light on the commonalities and differences in the male experience, encouraging open dialogue and mutual learning. I am Dr. Garfield McCook, one of your hosts.
So whether it's a teenager grappling with the pressures of social media or a senior reflecting on the changing definitions of manhood, Bridging Generations is committed to uncovering the real stories of men navigating the complexities of a changing world. I'm Dr. Juan Marcel, another one of your co-hosts. Doc, what's going on tonight? What's new?
And what is new is what it's all about, right? It's what's up. You know, tonight is a little bit different. As you can see, we have Dr. Eric T. Merriweather, on set with us. Normally, this is not how we do it, but there's so much to cover tonight that we're going to get him involved from the very onset. You know, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Awesome, Doc. You know, Augusta, what's going on? How you doing? Just want to talk for a minute.
Man, doing better, Doc. For those who don't know, recently lost the most important woman in my life with my mother passing away last week. So continue to just live day by day. And then each day I wake up, I strive to be the man of integrity, man of character, and man of service that she called me to be, because she was a person of integrity, dignity, character, and service. So working on some things now to not just live now and maximizing my purpose and extending her legacy, but also building something in her honor that will be a blessing to those who followed in the footsteps and trailblazed as she did, just for them in the future. So all in all, 1 week removed, I'm feeling blessed, and just want to encourage everybody to maximize life in every opportunity you were given.
Dr. McCook, how important is that to maximize life?
It's very, very important. You know, each moment that you have to hug or just chat with a loved one, it's a valuable moment. We are given this gift of life. I said it's the most important gift one can receive, is the gift of life, and we got to treasure it and make sure each moment is one that is really, really, really used to the best, by just, you know, expressing love to each other and just enjoying the what we have been given, the breath of life. So it's very important. And as Augusta said, you know, he's going through his challenges right now, and because that breath has been taken away from his mom.
You know, the breath here on earth is taken away, but she's still here. And Augusta, we had a conversation today, and you're actually starting a foundation in her name, in your mom's name. Yeah. And how important is that? How powerful is that?
Important.
With us?
So the goal of the foundation that we're going to establish is my mother, for over 30 years, served the community of the greater Los Angeles, Compton, Long Beach, and Harbor Gateways. She served on a National Council of Negro Women. She served on the board of trustees for the United Way Agency for West Coast. So all of her years of handling millions of dollars and serving as a mentor and intercessor and community activist and person in the mayor's office, all of these things that she encompassed, I wanted to be able to build a framework for a foundation that not just serves the community throughout the year, but really the goal of it is to be a blessing to some young person in the initial year, and of course in future years, multiple people who are pursuing that, not just in their education and higher academia, but them in their lives, those who are active, those who are really serving the community. You know, the hope is, the hope and the prayer is next year, even at the next Collision with Purpose event, to be able to take some young college kid who's pursuing community work or social work, something with activism, who's working in their community and building for the future, and to be able to provide that person a little bit for some books, a little bit to ease the pain for the thankless work that they're going to do in the future. And I think this is something my mother would be truly, truly proud of.
And I'm listening to you talk, and our special guest tonight will really understand what you're talking about, because he's living that life. He's living that life and just doing exactly what you're talking about. There's something I want to share tonight. I've been asked so many questions about what is a collision with purpose? What is this thing that we're doing? So I want to just read a little bit and give some explanation, right? A collision with purpose movement is a dynamic organization that inspires individuals, communities to discover and live out their true purpose. Through transformative programs like the Colloquium, motivational events, and impactful initiatives, the company empowers people to overcome challenges, embrace personal growth, and make meaningful contributions to the world. Rooted in positivity, kindness, and empowerment, a collision with purpose transforms words into actions and actions into results, thus helping individuals turn their potential into tangible results. So that is who we are here, a collision with purpose movement. That's what we do. What I'm going to do right now, Dr. McCook, I'm going to play a video because there's a big event coming up next week, and I want to play a clip, and I want you to explain what it's all about and tell folks out there how they can get involved. Okay?
Sure.
Man of nobility. It's the second annual Marcus Garvey Symposium, commemorating Garvey's first visit to Atlanta in 1917, happening Tuesday, March 25, 2025, at Big Bethel AME Church, 220 Auburn Avenue Northeast in Atlanta, starting at 5:30 p.m. in recognition of the United Nations International Day of Remembrance for the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. President of the UNIA, Stephen Golding, the keynote speaker. A special plaque unveiling by Jamaican Ambassador to the U.S., Her Excellency Audrey Marks, OJ, plus a screening of the first ever movie about the man, Messiah. $25 pre-sold on Ticket Taylor, $30 at the door. Visit AtlantaJamaicanAssociation.org. Sponsors: Atlanta Jamaican Association, Inc., UNIA, ACL, Big Bethel AME Church, Nubian Jack, Jamaican Embassy, Washington, D.C., AJ Cultural and Educational Fund, Inc., A Collision with Purpose, AME Sons of Allen, Atlanta Black Chambers, Black Art, Culture and Education, Global Humanity Network, Jamila Hall, Esquire, Dr. Shante Mangaroo, Royal Caribbean Bakery, and Utopic Staffing Solutions. The Marcus Garvey Symposium, Year 2, Tuesday, March 25, at Big Bethel AME Church. Don't miss it.
Right, you heard it there. Don't miss it. Dr. McCook, what can you share? What
Yeah,
else can you add to that?
Well, Marcus Garvey, as we know, this is so surreal. I mean, it's a 100-year fight that has taken place just to get him pardoned, and he was recently pardoned. It was interesting that Justin Hanford, who is a Howard professor, he was one who was instrumental in getting this pardon done. And he reflected on how when he got the call from the White House that this was going to happen, he got on the phone and he got with Dr. Julius Garvey, Marcus's son, because he wanted for him to hear it for himself. Hear it, not just a third party, but be there on the phone. So it's a very it's a landmark event. As I just said, this is the second year we're going back to Big Bethel Church, and it's significant. We're doing a fundraiser with GHN and all the other organizations to actually move more than apart. We want it to be wiped out totally. So we're asking you out there, those who are listening, those who are local, just to show up. It's last year I was in attendance, and it was a great event. This year, and we're having our ambassador, Audrey Marks, going to be there. So it's going to be a very good social event where you come, you meet people. You're going to see stalwarts who have been there in the fight. So we ask you to be supportive. Again, the site is the Atlanta Jamaica Association.org for your tickets. And we look forward to seeing you on the 25th at 5:30 p.m. So join us. Looking forward to seeing you.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. McCook. One more piece of business before we go to our break and then bring our special guest on. And Juan, if you and Augusta can talk a little bit about this book and why it's so important. We're running a initiative to Kenya. And of course, all these things cost money, right?
Absolutely.
You don't get on the airplane and head to Kenya and do big things and build toilets and donate clothes and food and all these things, sanitary pads to women with no money. So we are running a special here, if you want to call it a special, where I'll turn it over to you guys, to you, Juan.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Doc, you as Doc said, this is a trip. This conversation that we have on a weekly basis, if you can see to our audience, is generally centered around serving communities. And how major is it? How big is it that we are slated to serve a community across seas. So we all know that this whole movement is globalized, right? So every book purchased on the website, every book purchased on our website, a portion of that goes towards this trip to Kenya. So that's why this trip, this book is so big, because it enables us to continue this movement beyond U.S. land. It enables us to move beyond that and go, and as Doc kind of touched on, to help build places where these folks are sheltered, bathrooms, provide toilets, toiletries, just the bare necessities in a sense, for a lot of families and people in those communities that we are serving through this organization.
Right. Yeah. I would.
Something.
Yeah, I would echo Juan's sentiments. Don't just purchase the book because because people who you like have taken part in the interviews and the anthology. That is an amazing work. Take part in, because for the 2.5 years that A Collision with Purpose has really been in existence, and it's broadened its network, and it's really its roots are planted in doing the work of, I still call it ministry, of doing this ministry and this work even abroad. So extending from Atlanta into Jamaica, and specifically in Kenya, where a lot of this audience is. And I will tell people, in your purchase of the book, that portion that goes, you're pouring into good soil, because this isn't something where, you have a lot of agencies where, there's finances that go, well, we got to pay this administrative and this. You're able to go on to Facebook, you're able to go on to YouTube, and you're able to see us weekly talk about the positive work and the effectual changes that are being made over there. If you're somebody who's into the diaspora news and you see currently some of the things that are going on in Kenya, the work that we are all going to do there, this group of probably 8 to 12, maybe 15 of us in June, is work that is absolutely necessary at a time like this in Kenya. So we're really excited. In any way you could support, go ahead, tap that link below, purchase and get a great book, and support an effort of really, really, really good work.
Right. So on this initiative, while in Kenya, we plan to construct 2 pit toilets, right, consisting of several pits. We also plan to donate clothes. They talk about food, clothing, shelter, right? We plan to get into as well. We plan to sanitary pads. It's a big deal there. We will be getting involved with that at different schools. And we'll also be visiting cancer patients. So, we are heading up the Elizabeth Sitawa Cancer Foundation in Kenya, right? CBO. So that's all going to be happening from June 6th to June 20th. Now, let's pivot to why we're here tonight. Let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, Dr. Juan, you'll get to introduce our guests for the evening, and then we will have a conversation with him. All right? So let's take a quick break. We'll come back.
A trail is written of hearts that strive. Through fire and flame, they find their way, becoming iron where courage holds sway. Becoming iron, with hearts forged in fire. Tales of courage and conviction rising even higher. Displaying strength in the fiercest fight. Becoming iron, shining in the night. Faces the darkest night. The empowered man fights with all his might. The resilient man stands unwavering and strong. The inspired man knows where he belongs. Together they rise, conquering fears. Becoming iron through trials and fears. Becoming iron with hearts forged in fire. Tales of courage and conviction rising even higher. Displaying strength in the fiercest fight. Becoming iron, shining in the night. Becoming iron, shining in the night. The brave man faces the darkest night. The empowered man fights with all his might. The resilient man stands unwavering and strong. The inspired man knows where he belongs. Becoming iron rose where he belongs. Becoming iron, shining in the night. Becoming iron, with hearts forged in fire. Tales of courage and conviction, rising even higher. Displaying strength in the fiercest fight. Men becoming iron, shining in the night. The brave man faces the darkest night. The empowered man fights with all his might. The resilient man stands unwavering and strong, shining in the night. And the tales unfold and the battles new. Convictions light sees them through. From abysses deep to the morning light. They becoming iron in the endless fight. Becoming iron with hearts forged in fire. Tales of courage and conviction, rising even higher. Displaying strength in the fiercest fight. Men becoming iron, shining in the night. In the tales of old and the battles new. Convictions like season through. From abysses deep to the morning light. They become iron in the endless fight. They become iron in the endless fight. In the tales of old and the battles new. Convictions like season through.
Right, welcome back. Welcome back to Bridging Generations, Voices of Men in a Changing World. And I believe we can all agree that we are living in a changing world, aren't we?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, Juan, do us the honor and bring him on, bring our guest on.
Look, to our audience and our listeners, I have the distinct pleasure and privilege to introduce a dear friend and mentor of mine. So I'm gonna do this, and he's gonna of course just deliver it much better because nobody knows it better than he himself. But just something real quick on Dr. Eric T. Merriweather. 2002, and you'll hear a lot about this. He founded the African American Association of Georgia, and through this organization, he's been able to champion for the underserved while executing his vision and touching the lives of people of all ethnicities in the greater Atlanta area. This organization, the goal has been to provide mentoring, education, health, and wellness, as well as feeding programs to support the sustainability of families becoming whole. So just to touch on a couple of things that he's done, he's been busy, right? So through the pandemic, even since the onset of his organization, he's been feeding families. But through the past 2 decades, he's touched and served over 7,000. And to this day, they consistently serve 1,100 families each month. That's big. He also created the track club called Sprint Athletics in 2005. And it's another means that he uses to nurture the sport track. He gives to young people the opportunity to strive for greatness, build character, and create direction for their life. He continues to train and compete in track. A few of his accomplishments. He has a Masters Olympic World Games 2-game gold medalist. That's what he is. Masters 8-time world champion gold, silver, bronze medalist. And he published his book called Knowing Your Identity in 2011. He's had several articles written about him and his work. The 2017 Humanitarian Award honoree recipient. He's a recipient of the President Barack Obama Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017 and the 2021 recipient of the President Joseph Biden Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. I could go on and on, y'all, but I'm going to go ahead without further ado. I want to introduce to many my dear friend and mentor, Dr. Eric T. Merriweather.
Come on, let's do the roll. Let's do the roll. Let's do the roll. Let's do the roll. There he is.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Doing good, Doc.
Good.
E.
Juan, I really appreciate how you did and said what you said. You're doing it better than I would. So I appreciate that. I'd like to basically be represented as a quiet storm, if that makes sense. I think some people will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Understanding who you are, knowing who you are without having to broadcast it, because you should be able to wear who you are versus having to vocalize who you are. So,
Agree.
yeah. So for me, with like I said, he said I'd done a myriad of things, from writing a book to coaching kids that I've been doing since 2005. I've been helping families. This May will be 23 years for our organization. Started it in 2002. And the interesting way, I'll be real quick with this, the interesting way that it got started, I think, I will say that God dropped something in my spirit. And I was like, God, you got the wrong person. You got to go get somebody else to do this, because I'm not doing this. This is too big for me. Right. So about 2 months later, I heard the Lord say, if you do this, then I got everything else. So I filled out my 501c3 application, had it back in less than 30 days. And you all know that's unheard of. So
Right.
God was me involved in that to make that happen the way that it happened. And ever since then, I've been working hard to do God's business, do his work, and everything that he tells me to do.
I can attest to that. I can attest to it.
So let me share a little bit, because I even hearing you talk about the things that have gone on with your mom and the passing of your mom and everything that you're going through. Just know that that beacon of light that she has created for you is always going to be around you. The angels have transferred to you from her. So it's like everything is there. You have all the tools necessary to do what you need to do. Keep your head up, keep smiling, never look down, because mom, you know what mom will do if you look down.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so just stay up and be proud of who she is, was, and now she's in the presence of God. So understand that and know that her life was not in vain, because you were created to grow in purpose. So that's what I wanted to say to you. So with my book, it's called Knowing Your Identity Through Christ. I wrote that in 2011. I was just sitting around, and it was like, for me, it was a way of escape when I wrote the book. So a little bit about the book is I was molested when I was 5 years old. I was raped at 13. My mom was in an abusive household. She went through abuse, physical, emotional. She went through a lot of things. And, I think it's part of the culture that we were in when back in the 40s and stuff that our parents went through. So, it's like, for me, I got to witness all of that. And it just created, I guess, false identity for me, in a sense, that I didn't know who I was, because, I was comparing myself to other families because of what was going on in my household. I wanted to be in another household to see if something was going to be different, or didn't like the actions of my father and the things that he was doing when it comes to abuse with my mother. So that took an effect on me. And when I wrote the book gave me the ability to create a release for myself.
Mm.
And it allowed me to see myself differently versus being part of that era of going through the abuse, and my mom going through the abuse. I've learned to focus and identify with things in such a way, because at the end of the day, what I've learned concerning my father, I call it a learning disorder, that he only learned what he saw his father do. So that's how he knew how to do that, or keep people in control, or however he was doing it. But it's a lot of things that go on in our culture that is displeasing to me. And I think it's basically because of identity and the things that have been done to our culture altogether.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Interesting.
Juan, you've been trying to get Dr. Eric on this program for a while, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, it happened at the right time. So, Doc,
It
welcome
did.
to the show.
Thank
We
you.
Yeah,
appreciate you coming on. And so, your journey spans philanthropy, athletics, leadership, and
Yes,
entertainment. You've done it. You've done it. Even though you don't like to talk about it.
right.
Tonight you're going to talk about
I'll talk about it for you.
it. Now, again, in 3 words, let's define who you are in 3 words.
In 3 words, I am strong, I am brave, I am bold.
I played that Becoming Iron for because after that strong with that video, because after reading your bio, that's who I saw. Man becoming iron. Man who is resilient, brave, is all about empowerment. And what's the other one?
empowering, resilient, brave, inspiring.
There you go. And that's who I saw. And that's why, that's why I played that song.
Okay.
That song. All right. Just to say this is who you are. And we need more men, more black men.
Yes, sir.
And that is an anthology we're going to be doing about Becoming Iron. And we will have about 20 authors in there of men, black men, talking about tales of courage and conviction, with each of them identifying in a category that is that not that they don't have all these different categories that they embody, however, that one where their strength lies, right? So Juan, I'm going to pass it to you, and after you, then we'll go to Augusta, then Dr. McCook.
Absolutely. So, is Dr. Eric T. Merriweather, but I affectionately call him E. So E, my question is, so your journey from working out of your garage to serving over 7,000 families is truly inspiring. It is. What was the defining moment that turned your vision into action, and what kept you going during the early challenges?
I would say for me, it was the children that I work with, the children that I coach. A lot of them, with the 35 families that I started off with, a lot of them were my track kids that I work with. And a lot of them had no food, no clothing. And then a light bulb just went off because, I was basically spending my money to take care of them. So it's like, that's who I am. That's what I do. But the light bulb just went off. And I was like, hey, you got something here that's going to be great. And, when God gave me the vision to do that, I was like, I took charge after, I went through what I went through and took the 2 months to act like I was hearing God. And then all of a sudden, I had to hear him. And I was able to go in a space and feel the emotions of those children. Because of the things that I went through in my childhood, I was able to identify with them with all the stuff that they were going through because, I was working with kids that were abused. I was working with kids that didn't really know who they were. So I tried to instill in them that they are great no matter what. No matter what your circumstances are, you are still great. God created you for a reason, and God only creates greatness. He doesn't create joke. So it's like and in that instance, it's like I'm always trying to encourage them. I know, I pay attention to a lot of coaching styles, a lot of different coaches. Some of them like to swear a lot. Some of them like to do different things or punch the kid or whatever. That's not me at all. I will say that I'm 95% calm. I have 5%, and I tell them it's like a F5 tornado. You can choose the 95% or you can choose the 5%. It's your choice, but you make that choice to choose which one you want. But I'm a very patient guy because of everything that I've gone through. So it gives me the ability to understand where each and every child is coming from to give them that ladder up for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Equity.
That's 5%. That's 5% of me. Let's not
That's
bring
what?
it. Let's keep the 5% at bay. Let's not bring
Right?
it.
I do all the time. Yeah, it's very rare that it comes out. Yeah.
All right. Let's keep it moving, guys. Let's keep it moving. We have a lot to talk about tonight.
Doctors, can you all hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I say doctors because normally, Dr. Merriweather, I'm the only non-doctor.
Well, you're a
I think,
doctor as well too. So yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So I'm excited to hear. Even when I watched the Marcus Garvey video,
Mm-hmm.
I said I'm gonna be there, so I'll be there. I might have Dr. G pick me up and take me, but I'll definitely be there next week because I'm a huge fan of Garvey and his work.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Garvey and his work, the African American Association of Georgia. It's my first time hearing ever of this, but now I'm very intrigued in you've been doing this instrumental work for over 2 decades. In
Yes.
that time, how has your vision evolved and what are some of like the unexpected lessons that you've learned in that time?
Well, I will go with the unexpected lessons first, and then go with the evolving after that to put the icing on the cake. As far as the lessons that I've learned is, when it comes to God giving you a vision, you can't expect everybody to be on board with the vision that God gave you. So that's the first thing, first and foremost. It's like you get excited about it, but everybody else is not going to be as excited as you are because it wasn't given to them.
Mm.
And you have to understand, and this is where I think that faith comes in, that you're just believing God and knowing that something is going to happen. So even with me working out of my garage, I was still doing it with happiness. I wasn't sad. I wasn't feeling a certain way. And then all of a sudden, God sent a man to bless me to get us into a storefront and being able to help families in Mableton, Georgia, believe it or not. We were there at first, yeah, in a storefront. It was a lady that owned the storefront, and they allowed us to give families food and stuff out of that storefront. And then moving forward, there was another gentleman that God sent to, he had a warehouse and he didn't even charge us anything. We were not paying anything up until 2010. So everything that we were doing, there was no expense on our end as far as covering, electric and all of that. We didn't have to pay anything. And that happened from, I want to say from 2006 to 2010.
Won't he do it?
Yeah, so he did it. So, and I was very pleased. I was
Won't
pleased
he do it?
and excited, and then we moved into a warehouse space. We right now currently are in a warehouse space. It's like maybe close to 10,000 square feet. So we have storage space, we have shelving, we have all of that. And the icing on the cake is that we got blessed with a walk-in refrigerator, freezer. All of that was given to us through a grant. The shelving was given to us through a grant. So this is how God has been moving. And the thing that I've learned, even with this nonprofit, is like people, in a sense, will, uh, I'll be honest and candid, they take advantage. So you have to be careful why so many people want to be around you. People try to get close to you to understand who you are, what you're doing. And some of these same people have started their own nonprofit. And I don't mind because you can't take what God has given from me. You know what I'm saying? But just be honest when you come in to have a conversation with me that that's the idea that you want to do versus kind of just taking my model and using the model that I'm doing, which is fine. I mean, because what is mine, and what's theirs is theirs. So those are some of the lessons that I've learned. And then also I went through a scare a few years ago where I was given some medication and I had a stroke. And of course you wouldn't be able to tell that, right?
Mm.
So I couldn't talk. I had no vision on my right side. My whole right side could not move. But by the grace of God, I'm telling you, I was in the hospital for 5 days, in inpatient rehab for 5 days, and then I was back home. So that's how quick God moved, because I was really adamant about being in therapy and not laying in the bed. So, if anybody's out there listening that has gone through that, you are not what has happened to you. You have the willpower, you have the strength to do what God called you to do. Don't let man tell you, oh, it's okay, just lay and relax. They tried to put me in a bed with an alarm on it. I didn't agree with it. I threw a fit. I did everything I could to not lay in the bed. And I began to walk around the wall in the hospital and kind of move walking on the wall, and got everything back in approximately 3 months. The therapists and nurses and doctors and everything said they've never seen anything like it. So that's why I say, but God.
Yeah.
No speech, but I'm talking to you all right now. So
Yeah.
it's like the goodness of God. Yes.
We got to get an organ in here, Juan. Juan, though, right about this. Juan at the age where he remember the old school church. Right about now, they hit that chord. Get your praise report, man.
Facts.
Yes, interesting. Interesting, Doc. Interesting. Doc, earlier, when you started off in your introduction, you mentioned something about the abuse and everything, and
Yes.
you use a new term, which hope I can use it. I think it was learning disability. I think that was a term. So if I understand, you're saying that based on your father's action, he learned from an abusive father, if for the want of a better word, but then you were strong enough to break that chain.
Yes.
So thank God you were able to break the chain, and you got the energy to do what you're doing today. So congrats on that. Now, you also did a launch of the African American Association of Georgia, but then I see where you took it a step further, and that's what I call growth. So the launch of the African American Association of the USA,
Yes.
which I call AAA USA in 2020.
Yes, sir.
It signified an even greater or bigger mission. What inspired this expansion, and what specific impact are you aiming to achieve on a national and possibly international level?
Well, it's funny you say that, right? Because initially when I started the organization, I had a vision of the organization being in my hometown, which is Memphis, Tennessee. So we've been doing stuff in Tennessee, but God showed me Washington, D.C. He showed me Miami, Florida, and he showed me one other location. I just can't remember it right now, but I knew that I had to expand, because we were looking at the thing that I have in a sense, on my wall is AAA USA, but initially I had AAAG, AAATN, which is Tennessee, AAAFL, which is Florida, AAA DC, so I had all of those things in line. But I think USA represents the entire culture of USA from that perspective. But the other thing is, it's funny that you're talking internationally, because I've done some stuff with some groups in Jamaica. So it's like we've been instrumental in being able to help some people over there with school supplies and different kind of toys for the kids, and non-perishable items and stuff like that. So I am really hoping in this new era that things begin to change in such a way. And I'll just say this, not looking at the presidential thing that's going on, but sometimes God allows things to happen for growth for his people. So we have to learn how to grow. If we're paying more attention to the person that's doing the action, then we've already missed God.
Understood. Well
Good
explained.
stuff.
Yes.
That organ, man. That organ. We need. Need that organ soundboard, G chord right there.
Right?
And my thing is, for me, it's like when I'm helping these young people, is giving them a sense of identity, because your parents, and our parents did that. They were like, boy, you just like your daddy, you this, you that, you know what I'm saying? And it labels you. So you're boxed in to a label. And what I've learned to do is step outside of the box and understand how God identifies me instead of man identifying me. From that perspective. Yeah, because it changes your whole agenda of who you are. And you have to learn how to break the glass ceiling in a sense. No matter how far your dad went, you are supposed to go farther than he ever went. So don't use that as an anchor to determine how far your destination is.
Amen for that.
Yes.
All right. Dr. E.
Yes, sir.
This man that is not going to let his situation define him, right?
Say that again.
So here is a man that will not let his situation define him.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. So, Doc, talk to me now about the education sports complex.
Okay.
And where are you with that?
Well, I'm like right now we're like just sitting on it because I've had, I've shared it with some people, NFL players and some other people. And those exact same people tried to use my stuff. So, so I was like, what? You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, we have to be careful because we get anxious and we start doing stuff outside of God's parameters. So it allows people to take advantage of us because we're not doing it in an orderly fashion. We get anxious and we don't want to wait like God said. But if God does what he does without us being so overzealous in doing the stuff, then I think it'll work out. So what I've done is just kind of held off. I have everything. I have all the drawings. I have all the financial components that's going to cause the sports complex to run and do everything. And God gave me all of this vision back in 2002. And when I saw it, I was like, Lord, you got the wrong person. You got to go get somebody else to do this because this thing was big. It was like, so what we're doing is working on math labs, reading labs, the fundamentals of learning, because a lot of our kids don't have the access that they need. And a lot of our kids, and the kids that I work with, they can't read. They don't know how to do math. They say they hate math. I loved math when I was in school. That was my favorite subject. But a lot of these kids, they don't tune in because they have so many other distractions. So the biggest thing for the education sports complex is take away the distractions and give them the tools necessary for growth. And once they get the tools necessary for growth, then they're able to do the sport thing. So we're doing track and field, it's football, it's soccer, it's gymnastics, it's basketball, it's chess. It's a lot of different components to the education sports complex. But we also want to help families as well, because again, you can train the child, but if they go back into a dysfunctional environment, it's going to corrupt their environment because they're in a dysfunctional environment. So we don't want that. So we get the parents engaged and allow them to have that same access as the children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gentlemen, let us take a quick break. All right. And when we come back, we're going to talk about personal resilience and leadership. But that's what we have here in Dr. E. Again, you're watching Bridging Generation, Voices of Men in a Changing World. All right. We're going to go take a quick break and we'll come back. And Juan, you will lead off.
I'm a boy kid. I'm a boy kid. I'm a boy kid. I'm a boy kid. I wake up in the morning and I praise the Lord. I thank him for his protection and I walk in his steps, declaring that today's provision is set up for me. I love God and I love my friends. I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid. I put on my armor and I read his word, blessing come out of my mouth. Cause I know to whom I belong, I am bold for Christ. Holy Spirit dwelling within me, carrying his presence wherever he sends me. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. Loving others as he told me to pray for healing, miracles to see, knowing my identity in Christ, he is in me. I am a bold kid, he loves me, standing firm on his word, proclaiming everything I heard, not afraid because he is with me. Be bold. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. Put on my armor and I read his word, blessing come out of my mouth. Because I know to whom I belong, I am bold for Christ. Holy Spirit dwelling within me, carrying his presence wherever he sends me. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid.
Right, welcome back to Bridging Generation, Voices of Men. And Augusta, real quick, the Bold Kid gears, are they up and running?
Bold kid gear, most part, up and running. Still some things that need to be.
Augusta, you're real muffled. Go ahead and, I don't know what's going on, but we're not hearing you clear. So work on that. And I think it's a microphone that you got going on. Try and go direct. All right, so yes, the Bold Kids gears, they're up and running, I was just told, and I posted the link in the comments, so you can order your gears there at theboldkids.com. Up and running. Juan, while Augusta is working on his thing, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about resilience and leadership.
Yes. So, I'll start it this way. You know, you describe struggles as triumphs. Can you share a defining moment in your personal journey where adversity became the catalyst for your greatest achievement?
For me, it was my father, to be honest with you. With him, my dad didn't talk to me. He didn't do anything with me. He did everything with the other children, but he didn't do anything with me. He had in his mind that I was somebody else's child when in fact I was his child. You know, so it's like understanding that and getting through that, because I was treated so different and made me feel like an outcast. But one of the things that I did when I said that I matured, I was probably about 20. And I said, you know, I believe the Lord led me to call my dad and have a conversation with him. And I had a conversation with him. You know, my daddy, he was, you know, we're going to say it old school, he was a cusser. So, you know, he did what he said, what he had to say. And then I said, Dad, how about if I come home and you and I get to know one another? And he paused for about 5 minutes. And then he said, yes, he would like that. That was a defining moment for me. And it was also a proud moment for me, hearing that from him. And then I will say it's tragic, but it's not tragic. And I'm going to tell you why it wasn't. So 3 days later, when I was supposed to go home, my father drowned in a boating accident. And I was so angry with God, but I think God was trying to expose me to something in such a way that I was so dependent on him. And I decided to not talk to God for about 6 months because I was angry, because the one thing that I wanted, I felt like it was taken away from me. And then a few years later, God and I had a conversation, and he said to me, he says, if I had to let you met with your father, then you would have thought that was all you needed, and you never would have made it to your destiny. So it created a destiny change for me. I'm thinking that my destination is getting the respect from my father, but that wasn't the destination. The destination was having the incident happen in order for me to grow. But the Lord allowed my father to come back to me in a dream and tell me that he was proud of me with all the things that I'd done with the organization, with writing the book. So my father was never around when that happened because he died in 1983. So he never got to experience the what I'm doing now as far as the nonprofit, as far as the life coaching. He never got to experience that. But his spirit came back and said that he was proud of me. And I'm assuming that's God's way of giving me that push and making me understand that it wasn't about me. It was all about the destination that God had planned for me.
Yeah.
Man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. So I would, and even in seeing, like you said, that growth is growth. It's amazing to be able to understand, even in that moment, that, you know, this was God's timing was perfect. This was something he ordained. This was he set up. And in all of this, I hear the consistency of your faith. And in organizations you've led and you've built things from the ground up, along with your faith, what other leadership principles have guided your success? And even to someone like me, who you heard speak earlier, who's trying to build something and be, you know, in community, what would be, with those leadership principles, what advice, what mentorship, what guidance would you provide to those who are looking to not necessarily follow in your path, but even blaze their own trail as somebody trying to be effective and a change agent in their community?
What I would say to that is really know your gift and understand your gift. And don't let anybody separate you from your gift that's been given to you, because people will try to distract you. They tried to do me. They told me that it wasn't going to work. You know, some people that really can't see said God ain't in that, and they were completely wrong. Here we are 23 years later, and they were completely wrong. So you cannot pay attention to man, because when you pay attention to man, you're actually basically paying attention to dirt, right? And dirt creates, you know, layers. You know, it creates dust. It creates layers for you. And when the dust comes, you don't have the ability to see with clarity. So I'm feeling something. I don't know if y'all are, but I'm feeling something right now. So it's like I'm going in that space of hearing stuff. And this is for everybody that's on right now and everybody that's listening. Your dust doesn't define you. So what I'm saying is that your flesh doesn't design you. You have to choose your spirit man and let your spirit man, because God said, I knew you before I formed you. So that means that your presence was there before you even got in the flesh. So understand what your presence was in the spirit, because when we got into this body, it clouded our judgment, it clouded our mind, and we were thinking different. So the war is not for the spirit, the war is not for the flesh. The war is for the soul, and your soul is trying to find out an identity and trying to identify with something. So either your soul is going to identify with the spirit of God, or it's going to identify with the flesh of man.
Yeah.
Preaching good. Preaching good.
Interesting.
Preaching good.
You know, it sounds like we could listen to this. I'm going to say young man, since Dr. Lax has me as a senior person for the entire night. But Dr. E, have you ever heard a term that lightning does not strike twice in the same place?
I haven't heard the term, but I kind of understand what you're saying.
Okay, so there's a term like that. Lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. But I see where you've been honored twice with the Presidential Lifetime Award, and to me that defies the odds. Right. And it speaks volume about your impact. I mean, what does this recognition mean to you, and how do you ensure that your work continues to inspire others?
So for me, I'm honored that both of the presidents recognized what I was doing in the community. I believe that I have created a legacy of sustainability from a perspective of people identifying and knowing really who they are in order to move forward. For me, it's always, I didn't learn how to cry until I was 40. I didn't know nothing about crying until I turned 40 years old, but that was because of God and the Spirit of God getting on me and knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable with God instead of trying to be a hard man, and be tough and try to pretend like nothing is going on. So for me, I like the encouragement of my experience. I think my experience encourages people in such a way, like when I'm talking to the children and if they've been molested, I can identify with that. If they've been abused, I can identify with that. If their dad is beating their mom, I can identify with that. If they're dealing with an illness, I can identify with that. So another story, I'll go ahead and throw this out because I don't mind being transparent. And before I turned 20, I was diagnosed with HIV/AIDS, and the doctor gave me 7 to 10 years to live. And when the doctor came in and made the announcement, and this is where I think that God's hand was on me, when he made the announcement to me and he says, you have 7 to 10 years to live, I paused for about 5 minutes and I said, Doc, I'm sorry, you got the wrong person. That's not my assignment. I said, I haven't finished my assignment yet. So that's not happening, and so here we are, like that. I was 19 and I'm now 61. So it's like, okay, God, come on. Now it's like, you have to understand the power of God. And once you understand the power of God, it can change a man. No matter who they are, the power of God can always change a man. So if a man is being rough, tough, or he's acting like he don't want to help you, but if God does it, he's going to do it. So I think we have to stop being caught up with the expression of people and start being caught up with the expression of God.
Yeah. All right. How can you follow that? Well, pretty good. I'll say this much, Gary. Dr. E just confirmed that you're still the senior man.
I take it.
How old are you, Gary?
Gary is a question. Yeah, ask you a question.
How old are you, Gary?
I don't use the word old anymore. I ask.
How seasoned are you, Gary?
I'll be 63 seasoned in 2 weeks.
Oh, so you're still young.
Yeah.
Still young.
When I said you're the senior man, I'm not talking about me, of course, because you can see it's a giveaway, right?
Not necessarily.
But in this case, it is because they know. But it's a good giveaway. It's something I embrace it so much. So we're going to take an onset break. Gary, I want you to let's plug Speak Harmony, our friends, all right? And then when we come back, we're going to talk about faith and purpose-driven impact, because this is what this conversation is about, right? So, Gary, I want you to talk about Speak Harmony, all right?
Yes, not a problem.
It starts with a spark, a vision so clear, where voices unite, there's nothing to fear. Access meets opportunity, we pave the way, sharing leads the charge, Tamara lights the way.
All right, Gary, what's this all about? Speak harmony.
Yes, so we on every Tuesday at 7 p.m. we have two great, I call them sisters, Sharon Thompson and Tammy Gammon, that has a podcast called Speak Harmony. Two great, powerful young ladies here, living here locally in Georgia, and we invite you to tune in. It's at APAP Media on YouTube every Tuesday night at 7. A very interesting conversation. They take podcasts to a different level. So audience out there, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we are on listening and making our comments and boosting these two young ladies, Sharon Thompson and Tammy Gammon, on Speak Harmony tomorrow at 7 p.m.
And just to add, Tammy Gammon will be my guest on Life-Changing Conversations, Inspire Action on Wednesday at 12:05 p.m. All right, and so just join us then. It's going to be a powerful conversation. We'll be learning so much more about Tammy. All right, so the moment we've been waiting for, faith and purpose driven. Dr. E, your book, Knowing Your Identity Through Christ, so important part of your life. It highlights the importance of self-awareness through faith. And how has your spiritual journey influenced your leadership and your commitment to community service? Can you share that with us?
Yes, I can. I would say I was playing church at first. Didn't really understand, just kind of followed suit of, what my mom did, and really didn't understand the real connection with God and understanding who God really is and what he represents. So for me, I would say I've always had faith, but the faith has been tested through the HIV. The faith has been tested during the stroke. The faith has been tested in so many different ways. But even though I went through what I went through, I still believe and trusted God that he was going to bring me out of it. And I didn't allow people to dictate my parameters of who I am to be. So it just changed for me from that perspective of knowing my identity through Christ and knowing what God has given me and the ability and the senses, because God has given me a gift. I say multiple gifts is what I will say. And being able to tap into those gifts, and he says, call those things as though they are not into existence. So I've been basically knowing my identity now gives me the ability to call those things as they are not into existence, and know that the power of God will sustain everything that he's asking me to do.
Wow. Powerful stuff. Gentlemen, just want you to pay attention to your environment, some noise coming through. And what Dr. E is saying is so important. We want our audience or those out there listening to get it clear. So just pay attention to your environment, because we're getting some feedback there. All right, Juan, let's move it to you.
Yes. So you've often credited God for the vision you've been given. How has your faith sustained you during difficult times? And what advice do you have for those seeking purpose in their own lives?
Repeat that one more time for me.
How has your faith sustained you during difficult times? And what advice do you have for those seeking purpose in their own lives?
Okay. Sustaining faith is, you have to understand faith first and foremost, because I didn't really understand faith. And I hope I don't get emotional, but I didn't understand faith at first, because I thought it was basically some kind of magic potion where you just talk and things just happen. But at the end of the day, God knows whether you have faith or not. God knows whether you're believing in him or not. So you have to take ownership of where you are. If you don't recognize where you are, faith can't lead you anywhere until you recognize where you are, recognize who you are, and understand how things are flowing through you spiritually, first and foremost, before you try to. I know people get on bandwagons and they go to different churches and they try to get this feeling, but it's not the goosey feeling. It's none of that. When the Holy Spirit comes, because he's going to shower you. It's going to be something that's going to cause you to be so subdued, and the Spirit is going to have you in a space. I call it Maya Angelou says in and out of time, in and out of time. So in time, we're paying attention to the flesh. Out of time, we're paying attention to the spirit. And I kept trying to figure out what she meant with all of that, but I now know time, God doesn't do time. He is omnipresent. He is everywhere. So he is not held by a standard of time. Only humans use time to dictate what day it is, what month it is. We use time for those purposes, but we've also used time to define who we are and how we should grow. And we can't allow time to define how we should grow because we were already created before we were formed in our mother's womb. We had a spirit before we had flesh. So understanding what the makeup of your spirit man is gives you the power and the tenacity to do what God has called you to do.
Love it. So
Did I
it
answer
is,
your question?
man, that man answered that thing.
Let me jump in here. So, Dr. E, and this is just an acknowledgement. Clearly, you know something about the truth mirror, about looking in that mirror and acknowledging who is in there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I do.
And how important is that?
You said how what?
How important it is to look in that mirror and call it for what you see, call it for what it is.
Yeah, you have to. So I'll share this story with you. Like, it's been years ago, but I was able to look at myself in the mirror and call some things out that I know that was not supposed to be there. And until you recognize what not supposed to be there, you're going to keep piling stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff. And then that stuff that's not supposed to be there will disrupt everything that is supposed to be there. So it sends you into chaos, and it doesn't allow you to understand your true self if you're piling stuff on top of what God has said you would be. So you have to understand your purpose. You have to understand the meaning of your will. You have to understand your design. You have to understand that how God created you and why he created you. God gave us so many different characters in the Bible to understand who we are. So we just have to, it's important to read, but it's also important to have a conversation with God so that you can understand the reading. Most people just read and they don't understand the reading. So they know the Bible very well, but they don't know the meaning of what God is saying for their purpose and for their design and for their destination.
All right. Thanks for adding value to that. Augusta, I'll move it back to you.
So because I'll kind of pivot towards even the work with youth and future generations, because you're talking about, you're really talking about accountability. You're really talking about understanding purpose. You're talking about not my will, but thy will. And in that discussion, a lot of young people today, I'm a father of 5. My oldest daughter is 15. And I've seen it with her with identity and direction, where to go, what to do. With that, how are you guiding specifically with the youth as somebody who's been blessed to have as many rotations around the sun, if you have, not as much as Dr. G, but many, in that amount of time, in those seasons, how do you guide them towards finding their purpose? And what are the lessons that you hope they take away from that engagement with you, that mentorship? And at times, I'm pretty sure you even serving as kind of like a father figure for some of them.
Yeah. Because some of them are in single parent homes. What I try to mirror is no judgment. No matter what they tell me, no judgment. And I think that's the thing that creates the shift, because I don't react to them when they tell me stuff, because I've been exposed to everything. I've seen everything. So there's no reaction like a shock reaction. I'm always speaking greatness in them and telling them how great they are in spite of what they're doing, because their actions don't, even though some people like to say it defines them, I don't think it does. I think what it is that if you have a child that's in a space because of what they've gone through, they're only responding to that space. But when you give them another space to look at, then they have the ability to identify with that space. And that's what I had to do in writing the book. It allowed me to identify myself with the space that God had created for me and me only. Stop identifying as other people and taking on other people's identification and take on your own, because you only have one fingerprint. Nobody else has your fingerprint. Nobody else has your footprint. Nobody has. God strategically designed us a certain way. He says, my sheep know my voice. So he knows you by your fingerprint. He knows you, you know him by his voice. So no matter how convoluted that things are, no matter what you've gone through, there is still a still voice inside of you whispering to you. People are expecting God to be boisterous. God is not a boisterous God. He is soft spoken. You have to pay attention to him, because if you got so much noise going on around you, then you can't hear God, because God is only whispering. He's not yelling.
Powerful. So Doc, I mean, you have been a Masters World Olympic game champion and all that stuff. I think tonight, guys, we must crown him with a humanitarian gold medal award. For all you've been doing. We're gonna put that on you tonight. So as of tonight,
Gary, those two presidential things sort of address that.
Yes. So your track club has produced some of the top athletes in the SEC.
Yes, sir.
What do you believe sets apart those who succeed from those who don't? Because not everyone can win. And how do you cultivate that mindset in young athletes?
Yeah, for me, with the athletes, what I do even to this day is allow them to identify what they did versus coming to them and having a conversation. What I know they did, I let them tell me what they did, and then I just kind of add to it, because it gives them their power back when they know what it is they need to correct, and versus me telling them what it is they need to correct. So I give them that power that way. And I always try to make the athlete feel like there's more to accomplish versus denying them the fact of thereof, versus criticizing them and saying, why did you do this? Or, I'm not a swear. I don't do all that stuff when it comes to talking to kids, I try to talk to them in such a way, in a gentle spirit, in a way that it gives them. They're like, because I have some of them say, and you're not mad at me? I said, why? Why should I be mad at you? This is your job. This is your career. This is what you want. This is what you chose. And all I can do is add value to what you chose. I can't take value away from you. Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Juan, then we'll move it back to you.
Well, since we're talking about athletics and mastering sports, How's your experience in track and field shaped your mindset in business and philanthropy?
Oh my God. That's a good question. It has really made me not take no for an answer. That's what I would say. You know, when Bishop Long used to preach, when they say no, you just say it's on and popping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
that's the thing that I learned from him, and knowing that it just changed everything for me. When I'm being told no, that I can't, I'm like, there's no way that I would allow people to deny me the success that God said I should have. No way.
Hmm.
So that's what I've
Yeah.
learned. And it's like, you know, I go through my ups and downs, right? And I sometimes go through my sorrow, and I sometimes go through punishing myself. I sometimes go through criticizing myself, but that doesn't last very long. It used to last a long time, but it may last like 5 minutes now, if that. And you know, I have a conversation with myself, or my spirit will have a conversation with my flesh self and say, do you know who you are you serious? Do you know what you have accomplished through God's hand on you? Are you seriously doing this? Why are you
Hmm.
doing this? The hand of God is with you, for you, and about
Hmm.
you. It ain't about nothing else. It's about what God has created you to do. So be the visionary that He has called you to be.
That's it.
Yeah. Man.
Do what you're here to do, right? Make it.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Let's keep it moving, guys. You know, I don't
So
want to tell you I'm watching
so
the clock, but we still
yeah.
have more to cover.
So I'm hearing the faith, and specifically the last thing that you just said. We said, don't take no for an answer, and you're building all these relationships and medals from presidents. And I go back to no for an answer, and clearly I know you're not taking no for an answer because you doing acting and voiceover work. So you saying yes, you are a yes type of brother. Tell me about the voiceover work and how storytelling has allowed you to tap into a new group of people to inspire beyond just the community service work and athletics. How now has going into that voiceover work and acting, how has that allowed you to branch out to a new audience?
Well, it's oh my God, it has allowed me to branch out in such a way because you know God has given me the ability to be in the prophetic, is what I want to call it.
Mm.
So when I'm going into acting class, when I'm doing certain things, I do what the Lord instructs me to do when I'm having a conversation with the actors or the voiceover artists, the people that I'm working with. If I get a download and he tells me to speak, then I speak. So I'm always encouraging people to recognize who they are and stop allowing the woes of life, in a sense, to dictate who they're not.
Mm.
Yeah, so I try to be an inspiration to encourage, no matter what your background is. You know, I don't care if you're homeless. I don't care if if you got a drug addiction. I don't care, because at the end of the day, there's something that God created in you. No matter what's going on with your outer appearance, there's something within you. You just have to tap into it. So I always try to encourage people to tap into that space. And when I get them, or when the Lord gets them to tap into that space, it creates this uprising and it makes them identify with something totally different than
Mm.
what they were identifying with before.
Wow.
Love it.
So,
Love
so,
it.
so that passion, you speak with so much passion.
Oh God.
I think this as a platform. Do you see this as a platform for your further mission? And what kind of roles or projects would you love to take? What's that one thing you'd like to do in the future?
The one thing that I would like to do is get this script written for my book.
Wow.
That's what I would like to do. You know, I really think it's going to help out a lot of people because it talks about every kind of struggle that families have gone through from, you know, like we said, molestation, from disease, all the stuff. It's like it's you know, I'll say this. I've always had a lot of people when they've read the book or even talking about the book, everybody that talks to me says, I identified with something in the book.
Mm.
So that's creating identity because they identified with something in the book. So no matter what people what their background is, no matter who they are, what their ethnicity is, it's like it still doesn't matter. God doesn't have a color. God doesn't have an ethnicity. God is just God. He's spirit and he's just, you know, he loves us all. And I think my overall goal is to just love the people into their destination
Mm.
because love conquers all.
Absolutely. And just for context, we're talking about knowing your identity through Christ. That's the book we're talking about here. And Dr. E, can you share with our listeners how they can get your book, how they can access your book?
You can get the book by going to knowingyouridentity.com and you can purchase the book on that website.
Just like that. Just like that.
Yeah. Yep. www.knowingyouridentity.com.
Yeah, and if someone can put that in the chat, we'd appreciate that. All right. So, gentlemen, we're drawing down on time. But before we go, let's talk a little bit about legacy and the future. And we're talking about Dr. E's legacy and future. Doc, how important is legacy to you?
How important? I've I've worked with a lot of kids, a lot, like more than I can count. And they always come back and say, if it wasn't for you, I don't know what I would have done. If it wasn't for you, I don't think I would be who I am today. It's so heartwarming. And I just got to share this story, right? My neighbor has a little girl, and this girl, I think she's infatuated with me. She's 5 years old. She's a Caucasian girl. I love her to life. And she did a card for me. And I'm in awe of what she did and how she designed the card. And it was like, I'm telling myself when she did that, I said it wasn't my human side that attracted her. It was the spirit of God that attracted her because she's always like, I want to see Dr. Eric. I want to see, you know, and their family, they always play in my driveway. They come up the hill and they ride down the hill on their bikes. And the parents was like, you know, I'm sorry if and the camera goes off every time and I know it's them. So I have no problem with it. I just love it. And I'm just glad that they see the spirit on me and can appreciate me no matter what ethnicity they are, because the spirit of God doesn't carry color. It's just spirit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I just want to add that a legacy that is worth leaving is one that serves others.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a purpose that is worth pursuing is one that serves others. And that's where you are. I'm picking up.
Yes.
I'm gonna pass it to you, Juan.
Yeah, so we've touched on so much tonight. So I'll ask this: looking ahead, what's next for Dr. Eric Merriweather? Are there any upcoming projects or initiatives that you're most excited about?
The thing that I am most excited about right now is learning who God really is and understanding who God really is. within the last year, I feel like God has introduced me to so much of Himself that it's allowing me to see myself in a different space and time, and knowing that my human body doesn't define me anymore. My human body has the ability sometimes to do what it wants to do, but it's like, again, I am in awe of how God's presence represents in a way that it creates change in my life and creates change in others' lives as well.
Augusta, you get to follow that.
Listen. I think there's no more questions to be asked after that, man. I think we could begin to wrap this up, because I have no questions. I just want to be thankful to you for coming into the space. You used the word transparent earlier.
Right.
I tell people the word transparent is you're able to see things. I tell people transparency is things you would find out. Vulnerability is something I tell you that you would have never known if I didn't tell you. So
Right.
I appreciate your vulnerability in this space, man. Yeah, I'm going to buy the book. I'm going to make some phone calls, see who can write a script, man. I'm excited for the movie.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome, and I appreciate you. And the thing that I want to share with you is that your days of coming are going to be great. Allow God to use you in such a way, because the visions that He's been showing you, you got to move quick on it. You can't move slow. You got to go quick. There's some exciting things that's going to be happening for you in the things that you're doing. And we can certainly talk, another time. I don't mind, but understand there's a call on your life to be great. And I need you to be great.
Man, I'm gonna do it, Doc. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Yes, sir.
Man, I'm gonna do it. I'm on
Yes, sir. And I'll say with everybody else, it is my honor and my privilege to even be able to sit before all these legendary people, and your greatness and the things that you guys have done, and the inspiration that I feel for each of you all. I am so inspired in such a way that it makes me look at things, or it makes me want to move even better than I have before. So I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the unity. I appreciate our Black men being able to have a conversation of solidarity, and being able to talk in such a way that it's with ease and there's no pressure, and it's nothing but love. So I thank you guys for the love that you have shown me today.
Dr. McCook, final thoughts?
Yeah, the great Bob Marley once said, you must emancipate yourself from mental slavery. And the conversation we have had with your doc, it all seemed about, it seemed to talk about us thinking out of the box, with an open mind. In a Christian belief, God, through Jesus Christ, is seen as a chain breaker, liberating people from the bondage of sin, death, and the power of the devil through His sacrifice and resurrection. So thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. McCook. Augusta, are you done, or do you want to add something else?
Man, we could. We could get to the closing arguments, man. This
Okay.
All right. Well, combo.
We are closing now, and Dr. E, is there anything else you want to add before we close out?
Well, I would say that I just pray for everyone that's on this call, and I ask God to give you the desires of your heart. I ask God to show you to understand the desires of your heart. So the desires of your heart is not based on an emotion, but it's based on the desires that God has given you to produce the elements that He has created in you.
Appreciate that. So, Juan, you're our closer, but before I hand it to you, let me just add this: that my personal thank you to Dr. Merriweather for sharing your incredible journey with us today.
Thank you.
You know, your story is a powerful reminder that true impact comes from perseverance, purpose, and service, and you have done all of that, right?
Yes, sir.
But to our audience, those listening, Dr. Merriweather's journey, his story proves that one person's vision can transform thousands of lives. His work in mentorship, education, and community service challenges each of us all, right? What impact is the question? What impact are we making? How are we using our gifts to uplift others? And he talked about the importance of gifts and how you use your gifts, right? So I want us and I encourage you to let his story be more than just inspiration. Let his story be a call to action. Because together, and he talked about unity as well, we are much better. And together we can work and will work to create change. Again, Dr. E, thanks for joining us today, and we hope to have you back on this platform in Bridging Generation Voices of Men. And to everyone watching, go out there tonight, tomorrow, and the next day and make a difference in your life, in your community, and the world at large. Juan, we'll give it back to you. You are a closer. No one can close like you.
Look, man, if y'all haven't noticed, I've been all smiles all night. And I'll tell you why real quickly is because I've known, Dr. E affectionately for 22 years. I met him when I was 19. And everything that he shared tonight, I can attest to. And as gentle as he is with everybody else, he was like a father to me. So a lot of our talks were so gentle. But he was always big on, you need to know who you are and stop allowing other people to tell you or convince you otherwise. And he was very stern about that. I'm better today. I'm the man that I am today. Community activist, mentor, all of those things because of these great men before me. Dr. Stephenson, Dr. E. And so I'm grateful. So that's why I'm all smiles to see, this person I love with everything give me, Eric Merriweather. I do. And so we're privileged. I thank you for joining us tonight. I won't go on because I'll probably get emotional, but I'm grateful for the world being able to see this gift to the kingdom of God. And hear this message and know this story. Get the book, www.knowingyouridenty. Is it com or net?
.com.
knowingyouridenty.com. And I'll say this, a lot of what Dr. E was saying tonight and just what he shared and what we've been talking about is about doing something bigger than yourself. A mentor of mine would always say, if what you're doing is big enough to do it in your lifetime, if what you're doing, you're able to accomplish within your lifetime, it's not big enough. That God is saying, go bigger. And so because his thoughts and his ways are far above ours and bigger than ours, tap in, getting to know your identity. If you're struggling to know what your purpose is or what the next thing is, then go to the one who created you, right? Because if you can do it, it'll die with you. But if God gives it to you, it will transcend a lifetime. So focus on that. You'll know the confirmation is God because it goes beyond you. And another generation is impacted by it and would have to carry it on. So know who you are, know God, and love people. We thank you for tonight. And here's the book. This is what the book looks like. You see that fingerprint? There's the book.
Cop the book.
One, before we go, let's keep that book up there. Keep that book up there. And before we go, I love what you just said. Because I once interviewed Dr. Pastor Laxley, and I asked her about her purpose, and she said exactly what you just said. Go to the one who created you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's acknowledge some folks before we go. We have Pastor Alexis on, Martin Thompson. Tremaine said, very good. Martin Thompson said, gentlemen, you have all delivered tonight. And let's plug the book one more time, Juan.
Yes, that is Knowing Your Identity Through Christ. It can be purchased on www.knowingyouridenty.com.
All right. And we'll put that in the chat somewhere in there in the chat.
Yes,
all right, gentlemen, this is it. That is it. We're done.
Same time next week. 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
And I'm going to play my favorite new song for Gary, for Dr. Gary.
All righty. And it will.
Bridging generations. The world keeps turning, the times move fast. What worked before may not always last. Fathers, sons, brothers stand tall. Learning from each other, we rise through it all. Young and old, side by side, bridging the gap with truth and pride. The times may change, but the heart remains. Let's connect, break the chains. Bridging generations, voices of men, from the past to the future, we rise again.